Welcome to Real Estate IQ Wisdom for Smart Moves. We will explore the insider secrets tailored exclusively for Silicon Valley home buyers, sellers, and investors, arming you to conquer the unique real estate landscape. So, without further ado, let's dive into this exciting conversation. Today, we welcome Scott Varney from SV Consultants. He has been a seasoned expert in bridging real estate and capital gains tax strategies for many years. With a rich history in both domains, he's adept at guiding clients through intricate financial landscapes. Thank you to our sponsor, TradeMyHome.com, for their community commitment and for making this podcast possible. The challenges mount in a world where 78% of the affluent constantly look over their shoulder, concerned about the safety of their wealth. The U.S. tax code's continuous metamorphosis, with over 15 significant revisions, further muddies the waters of estate and capital gain strategies, and the startling revelation: only 34% of Americans genuinely grasp their financial world. Now, more than ever, the call for expert insight, particularly on tools like Complex Spendthrift Trusts, becomes not just a need, but a lifeline. The following content is only for informational purposes. Please consult a licensed consultant for your specific situation, or if you need any specific legal or tax advice.
Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So does it have anything to do with rental properties or primary homes, or it works for any real estate?
So it can work for any real estate. And the beauty of this, so I love that you actually mentioned both rental properties and primary residences. Rental properties, it's easier to find tax codes that help rental properties.
Mm-hmm.
This does work for rental properties because if you own the property in the trust, or the trust owns the property, it has better asset protection than an LLC. Then the rental income is coming in and is tax deferred. So there's the benefit. And then the third benefit is when you sell off that rental property, the capital gains are tax deferred. So that's huge. So what can you do for a primary residence? Well, you have the $500,000 exclusion. That's what they call the 121 exclusion. And in that, in Silicon Valley here, people they will take that exclusion and still have a big capital gains tax bill. But see, if it's owned by the trust, then that gets the tax deferral as well. So that can work for both primary as well as rental properties. Whereas there's very few options with a primary residence, but this does accomplish some of my clients' goals with their primary.
And what all expenses can this trust pay for?
Okay, so the trust will pay for anything but fun, food, or fashion. So you have all this income coming in, and it's getting tax deferred, and you want to use it. You don't want it just sitting there for your beneficiaries. This may be your retirement.
Mm-hmm.
So you sell your primary residence to the trust. You have this infusion of cash coming in, and then it pays for all of your primary residence expenses pre-tax instead of post-tax. So if you have a mortgage on it, it pays for the mortgage, your property taxes, your insurance, upkeep, utilities, improvements. All of that can be paid for by the trust with the trust income that's tax deferred, which is huge because, most of us are paying, those bills after we pay the government the taxes, right? But now that's a trust expense. If you sell your cars to the trust, I recently paid a $2,300 repair bill for my Honda Pilot.
Mm-hmm.
I cut that from the trust. So it could take care of that. The trust can own your life insurance policies and be the beneficiary, so it pays for your life insurance. It pays for your health insurance. My appointment before this, I had back therapy. The trust paid for it.
I see.
So as long as it's not fun, food, or fashion, the trust can pay for it. For children up to age 21, it can pay for their food and their fashion. And so that's, there's a lot. If your trust owns your cell phone, the trust pays the bills. So again, your utilities, if you have a pool guy because you have a swimming pool, that's part of your real estate. So it can take care of a lot of your bills. So that's how you make your money go farther and grow your estate.
And how can a trustee draw funds from it to pay for living expenses?
Oh, that gets to be a little bit fun. So remember I mentioned that the trust does not pay for fun, food, or fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You can actually draw from the trust, because what you're going to do is you're going to sell your assets to the trust. You're not going to grant the assets to the trust. You're not going to donate or gift it to the trust. You're going to actually sell the asset to the trust. When you do so, the trust doesn't have money to pay you for, let's say, $500,000 for the house you sold to it or whatever it is. So you create and notarize a demand note.
Mm-hmm.
The trust owes you.
I see.
And then now if you want to pull out $20,000 to go on a nice trip, fun, my wife has a horse. That's an expensive fun,
Right.
and so if you want to pull money out, you pull it out against the demand note that's created.
Okay.
And instead of paying an ordinary income tax on all of that, the trust, because of that demand note, owes you interest.
Mm.
So let's say the applicable federal rate at the time is 5%. So $20,000 times 5% is $1,000. So you will report $1,000 as interest income, and then you'll pay tax on that.
I see.
$200, $300, whatever that tax bill is, as opposed to paying taxes on $20,000 coming out. So that's how you pull the money out if you want. And if you run out of demand note money, the trust can pay you a salary as the trustee. So there's ways to get money out to take care of the fun, food, and fashion.
And how complex can the taxes become at the end of the year?
So that's a wonderful question. That, the first year people have these trusts, they're in a little bit of a fog. And part of the reason is because you have to do much more detailed bookkeeping. And the reason is, see, I have an S corporation.
Mm.
I have to do record keeping, right? We're used to that. You're in business for yourself. We have to keep records. But with trust, when you get that receipt, you actually have to write notes.
Mm.
What did you use that for? Like the receipt I got today, Scott, back therapy, so that I have written documents. And the reason for that is, again, I'm the caretaker of the estate for my beneficiaries. So I have to be able to legitimately justify every expense as the caretaker. And this is how the wealthy pass on lots of wealth. Now, some people will do their own bookkeeping, but most people will hire a bookkeeper to make sure everything's kept in order. And then they have specialized tax professionals around the country that will do the tax reporting every year on these trusts. So that first year you're trying to figure it out, and they're guiding you and giving you the help you need to make that happen. Which sometimes I actually tell people, because again, I look at things holistically. Sometimes I've actually told people, yeah, the numbers make sense, but where you're at in life and your personality, you shouldn't do this.
Mm.
So I'm going to give them a very real, honest perspective, because I want to sleep at night too, because I really want to care for people and be a blessing to them. So I'm not interested in the sale just to make money.
Right.
I'm blessed, so I can bless others that way. So it is a little bit complicated with the bookkeeping and everything else, but after that first year, you kind of get in a routine.
Worried about the dilemma of selling first or buying first? TradeMyHome.com, powered by Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, has the solution. With our guaranteed 24-hour cash offers, you won't risk owning 2 homes or being homeless. You can buy first and sell later. Are you upgrading or downgrading in the next 3 to 6 months? Text PAIR to 408-740-7400 for a free and no-obligation professional equity appraisal report. For more information, visit TradeMyHome.com or call 408-740-7400. Remember, at TradeMyHome.com, your home is sold guaranteed or we'll buy it. for the next episode of Real Estate IQ, featuring Ami Shah, the founder of Ami Shah CPA.
So I come from a Jain business family and came to US on a dependent visa.
She aims to revolutionize tax planning by integrating innovative strategies and philanthropy, empowering clients to achieve financial prosperity.
I got married and came here. Soon to realize that nobody sponsors any visa, and I need visa. I needed visa to work. So
check out our full episode on Tuesdays at 5 o'clock Pacific and 8 o'clock Eastern on YouTube and Apple Podcast.
And what one advice will you give to clients who may be in need for deferring some of their capital tax gains?
So the big thing is timing is of the essence. I recently wrote an article for a publication with 200,000 members with that topic. And a lot of strategies have to be set up before you close. For example, that Complex Spendthrift Trust, you have to pay to set it up in advance of closing so that the trust sells the asset. And some strategies can be done after a close. So the most critical thing is if you're thinking about selling an asset, that's the time to start doing your homework. What is out there? That's the time to start talking to people like me, to say, okay, these are options. I can take their story and their case and say, hey, here's 3 options to look at and help them to start doing their homework. Because then it's very directed instead of trying to look at all 15 or 20 or 30 strategies out there and getting confused.
Right.
So the biggest thing that people need to do is start that discussion before they list a property. If they've already listed a property, it's not too late. If they've already sold a property, it's not necessarily too late. But after you've sold a property, the options
start limiting.
Get very limited. So there may be some rescues on some of that tax bill, but that's the key: is start before you even list a property. Engage, with your real estate professional. Find out what you think you're going to sell it for. Talk to your tax professional to see how much gains you're going to have. And then bring in somebody like myself to look at the case and say, here's what I think that you ought to look into. Here's what makes sense.
A client, they sell their primary home. Their capital tax gains is $1 million.
Ooh.
They don't want to pay taxes on it. They take that and they move into this Complex Spendthrift Trust. Can they use that money to buy another home and upgrade?
Yes, absolutely. So if they sell their primary into the trust and the trust sells it and gets the tax deferral, what's going to happen is upon closing, the funds are going to go to their trust account.
Sure.
And as the trustee, they can choose to buy whatever house they want at the right time, the right fit, and cut the check from the trust.
And they defer all the gains.
And defer all the gains.
That's marvelous.
It's a wonderful tool, but I will take a look at it and make sure that there's still ways to fund the trust, because now that the trust owns that property, you want the ability to have money coming in to take care of all the bills. So we will talk through all of that. Again, the holistic approach to make sure it makes sense.
Is it costly to set up this trust?
That is one of the downsides. Gut punch up front. Most of the tax strategies are paid out of closing fees, which works. And you look at it and you go, oh, that hurt. And all you've done is seen the number. But with this type of trust, as well as a couple other strategies, you actually have to pay for the trust up front. So a trust that owns your assets, just to get the trust book with all the provisions in it, it's going to cost about $15,000. Then you set up, you buy packages of hours to work with the professionals to get you set up with moving assets into the ownership of the trust, demand notes, maybe if you have LLCs, limited partnership agreements, all these different things. The The packages could range from $7,500 to $45,000. My higher end clients pay the higher packages because they have 150 doors and 30 LLCs, and
Right.
it's a lot of work. But I do want to say in here that complex trust, one of the benefits is that they are not transactional. What I mean by that is typically people will pay for each transaction they do.
Mm.
When they do a tax strategy, 1031 exchange, you pay every time you do an exchange.
Right.
Delaware statutory trust, you pay every time you do one. When you set up a trust, you can sell lots of assets with that one trust.
Mm-hmm.
So you paid it up front. So if you have multiple assets,
I see.
it's going to be a lot cheaper. It's just the gut punch is the cost to set it up in advance. But it really makes a difference having that in place.
And in your opinion, how can this trust help parents who have special need children?
That is where, and that's a wonderful question. That is where you work it out with the attorneys in case they need to actually draw up a special needs trust.
Hmm.
And in some cases, I've actually seen situations where clients will actually have a complex trust for certain assets and have a special needs trust or a living trust specifically for meeting certain needs. Now, and part of the reason is that the Complex Spendthrift Trust does not follow bloodline laws.
I see.
A living trust, while it's revocable, you can make up the rules, and after you pass away, those rules have to apply. So if you got a kid that really is not financially sound,
Sure.
you give them $100,000 and it takes them 3 minutes to spend it.
I have a couple of them.
Then with a living trust, you can say, hey, they're going to sell the asset and they're going to get paid $2,000 a month until the money's gone.
Right.
So they can't spend it all at once, right? With a spendthrift trust, the issue is that once you pass away and they become the trustees, they decide what they're going to do.
I see.
So some people will actually split it up, part of it in the complex, part of it in specific trust, living trust, even special needs trust to take care of certain things. So that's where they need to actually talk to an attorney to make sure that it makes a lot of sense.
Well, thank you so much, Scott, for your wonderful time today. It was a great pleasure speaking with you. Keep up the great work and let's stay in touch.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. It's good to be with you.
Thank you for listening to the podcast and acknowledging the wisdom of smart moves in real estate in Silicon Valley. Please share this episode with a friend, subscribe, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts at Real Estate IQ. Thank you to our sponsor, TradeMyHome.com, for their client commitment and for making this podcast possible. If you're considering buying or selling a home, visit TradeMyHome.com. Until next time, remember to stay ahead in the real estate game.